Hello, everyone, once again. This is Rob, and welcome back to Media Awareness. And this time, a video on Rick Beato and his hypothesis on why music is getting worse and its flaws. Before I continue, however, for those of you new to my channel, welcome. And for those of you who are unaware, I am a disabled individual and I use a motorized wheelchair slash scooter all day, every day for my independence, and I need your help. My insurance will not cover anything with regard to my scooter as they view it as a quote luxury item end quote. Despite the fact that I am unable to walk whatsoever, in addition to being unable to utilizing any other type of power chair or a standard wheelchair for that matter, only having limited use of one hand. I also do not have a backup scooter or wheelchair, so if this malfunctions beyond the point of being operational, I am a fish out of water. With all of that stated, below the title of this video, in the description as well as in a separate section below that, you will find a spot fund link. Any and all help is welcome. I cannot stress that enough. I pride myself on my independence and I thrive on my independence. And although I'm not completely independent in my everyday life, I do not want to be completely dependent either. With that all stated, please do what you can at the Spot Fund account. The goal at the current time is to raise funds to obtain parts and continue the ongoing refurbishing of my existing scooter and being able to obtain parts and pay the trained technicians to install these parts, as it is a costly effort to say the least. So thank you all. I love you all. On with this topic. So I watched these videos. I'm a huge fan of Rick Beato, and I agree with him on a lot of things, including this topic to some degree. But there are some areas where his um, uh, assessment or theory, uh, hypothesis, how whatever you want to call it, is somewhat flawed and doesn't take into consideration uh, a a certain wider demographic in terms of technology, making it easier for people to create music. And um, let me explain a little bit about myself, and you'll understand this maybe a little better. When I was 4 years old, I became ill with pneumonia and the croup, and I was dead for a little over 6 minutes. Um, and because of that, I became disabled. There was a lack of oxygen to the motor areas of the brain, and I lost the ability to have fine motor coordination. My vision was also affected to a degree. And prior to this, I was able to play any instrument that I sat down with, whether it was drums, bass, guitar, piano, even. It just instinctively came to me. I figured it out within a matter of, seconds at times. Um, Yet when I became ill and became disabled, uh, that uh, that gift that I had was lost, and presumably lost forever. So growing up, I wrote songs in my head. I would put them down on tape with like a melody that I would just kind of hum. And for me, I always dreamed of a way to realize my musical dreams. And my uh, ultimate um, goal of having an album of my own material done, and not just done, but done properly and produced well. Um, I compromised a bit in the early 1990s, and I thought, well, if I can't make this music myself, maybe I could learn how to produce. And I saw that as being a viable option until producers started becoming irrelevant as a result of technology becoming so prominent and so easy to utilize. Now, people still use producers today, um, especially some of the bigger name acts out there. They use more than one producer at a time slash engineer. But I had actually spent time and effort listening to Todd Rundgren productions, Roy Thomas Baker, anything that had a notable production name attached to it, I would listen to and study from beginning to end and figure out, you know, this is where a hi hat should be emphasized over um, a tom or whatever. And for those of you musically knowledgeable people, you know what I'm talking about. At least when it comes to recording, I would hope that you do, because I want to first say where Rick is right. Music has become easier to the point where you listen to the Spotify top 10, which Rick does feature um, fairly consistently, and you see a trend of just these really lazily composed, and I don't even want to use the word composed, lazily assembled uh, songs, if you even want to call them that. And they are there because they're either catchy or they're things people heard on TikTok or YouTube Shorts, or they are there because they were featured in a movie. There's always a reason. It can't just be because the song is good. And occasionally you'll get that where the song is actually good, but it's rare. And mainly things sound the same. You have the same repetitive beats, you have the same uh, sounds, the same vocal modulation, the overuse of auto-tune, which I cannot stomach. Uh, there's just a lot to be said for some valid points that Rick does make in these videos. More the first video than the second. But from my perspective, I can remember um, prior to purchasing my first 4-track uh, recording machine, which had a built-in tape deck with it to make things easier on myself. Before I purchased that, I went to a computer store in the one mall that I was at, and I asked, what do you guys have in terms of musical composition? Now, this was in the early 1990s, so Pro Tools was just being developed at the time. There wasn't really anything that I was looking for, and what I was looking for were programs where I could basically put, point, click, drop, and put things the way I thought they should be, and not in a perfect pattern either. For things to sound natural, not robotic in nature. And I was told, sorry, but that kind of stuff really doesn't exist. Unless you want to spend a small fortune looking into it, and then you're not even guaranteed success. So I had written all these songs, and I recorded some in my home with an old Casio keyboard, which did not have a output uh, jack for um, direct audio into the mixing console. So I had to mic the Casio keyboard to get the drums recorded, and then I went back and recorded my vocals over that. And on those initial tracks, my dad actually played bass guitar and electric guitar, and they're real rough recordings. I wish I knew what they were. I don't have them anymore, but it was something that I was relatively proud of. Um, I mixed them myself. I thought I did a decent job mixing, given what I had been studying and learning, and I kept refining and rewriting several of the songs, and my goal was always to make this album, and going along into the mid to late 1990s, uh, I happened to become acquainted very uh, closely and on a friend to friend basis with a gentleman named Mitch Kornfeld, who was an owner of part owner of a local nightclub, the Woodlands in Resort, and I would go there every week for happy hour, and I would do karaoke, or I would sing with a band if there was a band there that I had made friends with, and a song that they knew that I knew I could sing, and it was always more of a pleasure to sing with a band than to do karaoke. But I digress. Um, I'd taken I had a cassette in my pocket of my shirt. I was wearing a button-down dress shirt at the time, and I had a cassette in there of a song I had done, and I forgot what was even there, and Mitch had asked me, "What's that?" And I told him, and he had said, "Well, let's listen to it." And he put it on in the office of this building, and the employees were coming in and asking what they were hearing, and they generally liked what they heard. Now, my vocals are not great. I have a really, really, uh, I don't even want to say unique, but I will say unique vocal style. Um, a style I sort of evolved out of listening to The Doors, Joe Jackson, and uh, David Bowie, even though it comes out sounding more like Mick Jagger when I sing, combined with Tom Waits. But the point is, I had this own style that I had sort of crafted, and it worked for the audience that was there. This young college crowd that would come, they were absolutely enamored with the fact that A, I was a disabled guy up there singing, and B, I was confidently portraying myself, not nervously or you know, uh, second guessing um, myself. I was up there, lyrics not even in hand, not even being referenced. I was just there doing it, and uh, I did this for a long time. Um, when we ended up giving the one song that was on the cassette to a gentleman there who did a one man band show, and he agreed to work on the song and uh, get it to sounding full and sounding complete. So he took out my Casio drum beat, which it made a comeback. So I really wish that would have been left in, but he took that out, put in a drum loop, bass bass guitar, and electric guitar, lead and rhythm, and that was it. My vocals were left in. I think he put some delay on my vocals, and it sounded good in my opinion. It sounded for the time. It sounded good, and he was supposed to work on a full length album, and I recorded 9 more songs by the following week. Songs that I had recorded, that I had planned to record anyway, but I rushed them and I tried to uh, really uh, polish them within a week's time, and I feel I did a good job. Um, Mixed them the same way. That way, it was easier for this gentleman John to mix out the drum machine or keep it in and just layer over it or around it. And unfortunately, the album never got done. Now, in the 1990s, I was, um, and still am technically, the head of a nonprofit organization for disabled people known as Beyond the Disability, which uh, was intended to empower people with disabilities to lead a more social lifestyle. What I did not account for back in the 1990s was the inability for these individuals to get out after a certain time frame due to transportation, and the uh, fact that these individuals also really weren't of that same mentality. They were more comfortable not going out or living within the world they had created for themselves. So I, I did promote the uh, foundation, the nonprofit group, with selling copies of the CD single, which is what it became after that. And my dream was always still to make an album. And I continued on with that. Wrote some songs with some friends, but nobody really had the same musical vision that I had. Um, and it was not pop, it was not even pop rock. I wanted to make progressive rock, a style that was all presumed dead, musically speaking, throughout the 1990s. Now, unbeknownst to me, over in England in the mid 1990s, you had people like Stephen Wilson starting out Porcupine Tree and coming to success with that. You had people in Sweden Roy Stalt, Hasse Framberg of the Flower Kings, Thomas Bodine, making incredible progressive rock music. You had people like Neil Morris, Nick Virgilio, uh, of Spock's Beard, Ryo Akamoto, all those guys making this incredible progressive rock music out in the California area. But this is stuff that was not being widely circulated, and it was as a result of the internet becoming more prominent and recommendations on Amazon that opened my eyes to this whole genre of progressive rock. And then I was able to actually look back and see that bands like IQ and Marillion were trying this stuff in the 1980s. And it was ambitious, so ambitious. Um, so if I'd known about that and known about this whole scene, I probably would have pushed it more, but I thought it was this local anomaly, and nobody really wanted to do that kind of stuff. Everyone just wanted to be in a cover band and play covers and not record. And if they did want to record, it was always pop rock or uh, just, you know, heavy metal, whatever. Um, and it was never really bad. It was never really great, but I I always thought things could be better, and I always thought that I could get my vision out, and it wasn't until recently that programs like BandLab became more user friendly, um, to the point where I can now potentially make music that I've wanted to make since I was a child and make it the way I hear it in my head. And for me, that is a really amazing concept to have fully realized. And that is where I really have to argue the technology aspect, because, yes, it is making things easier. But for people like myself who are challenged and unable to play instruments as I once was able to as a child, who lost that gift because of an illness, I am now able to go into a program and set things up and arrange and record songs the way I hear them and the way I envision them. And that would not be possible without the technology being at the level it is at. Now, do I intend to make repetitive rap music? No. Do I intend to make um, accessible, catchy pop music? No. Whatever I make is whatever I make, and it's probably going to be more progressive oriented or progressive rock with a tinge of um, some commercial aspects, as I am really a big fan of bands like Journey and Survivor. They're two of my biggest 80s influences, 80s, 90s, and beyond. But then I have bands like I mentioned, Porcupine Tree, with Steven Wilson, uh, The Pineapple Thief. Bruce Sword is amazing in my opinion, and his writing is unparalleled. Um, People like, uh, you know, Andy Tillotson, the the Tangent, who just made an album of progressive rock music on his own, and it sounds like an entire band. So you have people like this, but they're doing things in the progressive rock genre. It may not be mainstream, but sounds great, and it's stuff that I intend to aim for in my personal music, and now I can, thanks to these newly developed programs. I mean, I've inquired for years about stuff like this where I could make music on my own, but it was never available to this degree until now. And I feel like now is the best time to be living. I'm 52 years old, um, and I know Rick is in his 50s, I believe, as well. Rick Beato, and you know, uh, I grew up on, hearing the Beatles, Captain Beefheart, Frank Zappa, Boston, Kansas, all these bands and musicians, David Bowie, especially, and these are all the artists that are heavily influencing me, on top of being inspired by modern contemporaries in the same genre that I'm interested in creating and being successful at that. Um, and becoming acquainted with some, um, to some extent, some greater than others, but really, uh, you know, it's a great feeling having that ability, and that would not be possible without social networking. So, and that was one of the things that Rick had brought up in his videos was, people spend hours and hours scrolling on their phones, and I've seen them do it, and it annoys me to no end. At the same time, if it wasn't for the social media aspect of things, I would not be probably able to network with people that I would consider contemporaries now, and uh, consider to be along the same musical guidelines as myself. I would consider that completely uh, unreachable. Um, and there was a point in roughly 2006 or so where I had written an album that I was all set to record. I had a collaborator. The whole thing fell through. We had the artwork for the album done. I have it over here on my desk, actually, still just sitting here. But my my own personal taste in music has changed to some degree since that time, and I'm now a more uh, I don't want to say necessarily free spirited, but I'm now a more open minded individual musically. So if I have one song that has, you know, progressive elements in it, I may have a song or portion of a song that has a somewhat pop rock elements in it as well. Um, it all depends on the song, in my opinion. But nothing is ever going to sound robotic in nature because I'm not going to let it. I'm going to make sure that things are slightly off, that things are not able to be put into a, computer program, analyzed to the point where everything lines up perfectly. I hate that. I hate the reliance on click tracks. I hate auto tune. Um, I think in moderation, it can be helpful in studio recordings. But when you hear auto tune, that is when it should be not not acceptable, and it's become a a tool, just like digital delay became a tool in the '80s. I mean, it's it's almost accepted that if you're going to hear a song that is popular, it's going to have autotune. If you're going to hear a song that's popular, it's going to have a trap beat. It's going to have assorted samples scattered throughout. And it has become predictable. And this is where I really agree with Rick because I have watched his videos. Um, but where I disagree is that technology is um, making things too easy. Because, yes, it is, but at the same time, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It allows people like myself, whose musical ideas are trapped in my brain, to fully realize them on my computer and get them out to the world. And that's where I stand on this. Um, it's not a slam against Rick Beato. He is a musical genius. Um, I admire the hell out of him, and his "What Makes This Song Great" series is how I latched on to him, and I was fortunate to see his video on Fleetwood Mac's "Go Your Own Way" before it was taken down um, due to copyright issues with Lindsey Buckingham and the writing aspect of it. But I was fascinated by just how many layers of production went into that song and other songs as well. And these are things that I really study and look at and have always done so. Um, I could listen to something and I could tell if it has a good production or a lazy production. And I tend to judge music on that merit and on those merits, I should say. Um, so yeah, I I do think that Rick is right to some extent, but there are flaws to his argument, and being disabled and being able to make music is one of those flaws. It's one of those demographics that you really don't necessarily look at, um, and because nobody sees people like myself out there prominently rocking out on stage, which when people have seen me perform, they have been in awe and shock because they don't expect to see someone like myself rocking out. Yet that's who I am. I am a lively individual. I'm a person that not only do I express the emotion of the lyrics I'm singing, I live it. I get into it. And, um, that is something that not enough people really see, um, unfortunately. And would I love to record an album in a professional studio with musicians that can understand what I'm saying as opposed to untrained amateurs? Hell yeah, I would jump at that chance. If I had the ability to record in a professional studio with excellent musicians, I would do so in a heartbeat. And I passed up an opportunity back in the 2000s um, to work with a gentleman in California because I would have had to travel to California. I had just gotten married for a second time, um, and it was definitely a possibility, but timing was not right. I knew that. I waited, got divorced the second time, and now, several years beyond that, I find myself looking back at songs I've written and thinking, it's time, and I can now do this. So whether I do it in my home, whether I do it in a professional studio, it's going to get done soon, and people are going to be able to hear my music as I hear it in my head. With that stated, also because of the internet, I was able to network with people I would never have thought possible. And I made connections with a band in Sweden known as the Starshooters. And they and I collaborated on a song I wrote. Um, I wrote the first two verses and the chorus of, and they wrote the final verse of it. And it's on, I'll link that below as well, along with Rick Beato's videos. But they had recorded my song. Um, and I was really proud of that recording, and I really loved what was done with my song. It was different from my initial vision, but it was done really, really well, and it reimagined my vision in a completely different way that I had never thought possible. And I'll also include the lyrics to it as well in the description to this video as well. But that would not have been possible if I did not have social networking and if I did not have the uh, luxury and fortune of stumbling across this band, becoming acquainted with them to the point where we were talking, writing, songwriting, and next thing I know, I'm sending lyrics and sending over my initial uh, demo and them repurposing it and reworking it and making it something that I'm really truly proud of. So yeah, there's a lot to be said for technology and technology becoming easier to use. Also, because I'm visually impaired as well as physically challenged, the availability of this technology on the computer and the user friendly interface is making things for me easier as well to do things on my own now as opposed to having to rely on others to fill in the gaps. And that's something else I don't think that is necessarily uh, thought about. You know, will this style be popular? Well, that's something that remains to be seen. Um, there is enough swing, a popularity, a progressive metal bands, Dream Theater, um, Avenged Sevenfold have gone very progressive. Tool has always progressive, and Tool had been on tour with King Crimson. So you have all these interlocking, interwoven bands, and I think that to some extent progressive rock is becoming popular because, and progressive metal especially, because people are really burned out on the same old, same old. Is it ever going to be on Spotify's top 10? Probably not. But I don't think any of the people that make the music I listen to care. And I certainly don't care. I've always been more about the creativity than about whether or not people liked it and whether or not it was popular. Um, so yeah, you know, I admire people like I said, um, Ryan Stahl of the Flower Kings, um, and Hasse Fromberg, uh, and the whole band for that matter. No matter the lineup, um, the Tangent, Andy Tillotson, uh, you know, Robert Berry, 6x6, uh, great band. Um, he's someone that I've talked to, and uh, Eric Norlander, an incredible keyboardist. I was I became friends with, along with John Payne, formerly of Asia. I became friends with via social networking, and so many other people um, that may not be as well known, but they really, really know their craft, and that is what impresses me, not the popularity of a song or a genre, but the artistic expression behind it. And, I'm fortunate in that I will be going to see um, the band Beat December 4th with my dad and my son, as we are all fans of King Crimson, and in particular 1980s King Crimson. And I cannot wait. My son can't wait. My dad can't wait. We're all Crimson fans, and we're all looking forward to that. And that was a band. Beat was something that Rick Beato featured recently in an interview. Um, Really great interview, I might add. And they really are passionate about this project, but they were never mainstream either. Um, and kind of the point of this is that something doesn't have to be popular to be good or to be um, necessarily done artistically or with talent musically. Um, I have little to no physical musical talent left in my body, but I have my creativity up here, and I intend to exercise that and create as best I can. Now, if anyone wants to provide feedback on this video, you're more than welcome to reach out to me via the Facebook link in the description. You're also welcome to reach out to me via my email address, also in the description. In addition to that, there is uh, the ability to comment in the comment section. I almost forgot what I was going to say there. But you can always comment below and let me know your thoughts on this topic. I'm really curious. I know that not everyone who is making music and making music simplistically with modern technology. I know they're not all disabled. I recognize that. And I know a lot of them are just taking advantage of this technology because it's easier, because it's, you know, more conducive to be able to get things out there and to get things sounding polished and clean. But there's more to a recording than clean sounding music. There's feel, there's soul, and that's lacking in a lot of today's music, in the majority of today's music, which is a point I also agree with Rick on. But there's no reason why we can't put that soul and feel back. It's just a matter of the right people doing it. And it's only a matter of time, and it will happen, in my opinion. Uh, because people can only take robotic sounding things for so long. And although music is at its lowest point of popularity on the internet in terms of searching, I still think that music is something that we all will always have in our lives. And it's something we all should always have and all experience at one time or another, to one degree or another. This is Rob with Media Awareness. Please consider subscribing to my channel and becoming part of the Media Awareness YouTube family. I'd love to have you. I will see you all soon. Have a wonderful morning, noon, or night wherever you are. And please check out the links in the description below. I'll see you all soon. Bye.